Hello everyone, this is Anson from AnsonAlex.com, and in this video I'm going to show you everything that you need to know to get up and running with MailChimp. MailChimp is a platform that you can use to send email newsletters, but it actually has a whole bunch of other tools that you can use for marketing as well. So we're going to take a look at all of the features available in MailChimp, and by the end of this video you should be able to create your own email newsletter, create an audience in MailChimp, and send out your newsletter. I am going to cover a lot of information in this video, so please, I do recommend that you follow along in your own MailChimp account, that you pause and rewind when necessary, and if you like to jump around, go ahead and take a look at the table of contents in the description of this video here on YouTube. So to get started with MailChimp, you're just going to go to MailChimp.com. And before we jump right in and take a look at our MailChimp account and get comfortable where everything's located, I do want to talk about the MailChimp pricing. So from MailChimp.com, I'm just going to click on the pricing link. And we'll scroll down on this page a little bit here. You'll notice that MailChimp has 4 plans for you to choose from, starting from a free plan, which is what we're going to take a look at today, all the way up to a premium plan, which is tailored more for professional marketers that are running multiple email campaigns, maybe for different companies. That's their whole business. So there's some information on what all of these different plans encompass up here at the top, but I think it's even more important if you scroll down a little further, because you'll notice that we have some details down here at the bottom, such as how many contacts we can have, how many audiences we can have. You'll notice that with the free version, we can have up to 2,000 contacts, and we can only create one audience, and an audience is a group of contacts. So you can see when you jump up to the first paid version, you can now have 50,000 contacts, and you can segment your audience up into 3 different groups. So if you're just starting out with MailChimp, I would definitely recommend the free version, but at some point, if you are running out of room for contacts or you need to separate your audiences, then you might want to think about upgrading to one of the paid versions of MailChimp. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the home page, and let's get started with MailChimp. So you do need to have a MailChimp account, so go ahead and sign up for an account if you don't already have one. I do have one that I'm going to use, so I'm just going to log in. I do want to mention that when you sign up for an account, you do fill out some information regarding your company, your organization, so go ahead and enter all of that information, your company name, your address, all of that sort of thing. I'm not going to go through that in this video because I think it's pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to log into my account that I recently created, so it's a new account. I've just already gone through the account creation process. And I'll just close this out. Okay, so here we are in MailChimp, and this should look similar to what your MailChimp account looks like. If you just created it, you're probably looking at a small tutorial that MailChimp offers that basically allows you to create your first newsletter and your first audience. So you can go ahead and do that if you'd like, or you can just leave that on your screen, and we're going to be working from these drop-down menus up here at the top, which you should have access to. On our homepage, we have an overview of statistics related to our email newsletters. And because this is a new account, we don't really have any information in here. But if you were regularly using MailChimp and you were getting newsletter signups, you would see your audience change here, how many new users have signed up within the last 7 days. You'd see how many unsubscribes, how many bounces you have, so that's emails that were not delivered correctly. But we don't have any information in here. So I think the easiest way to get started with MailChimp is to just start creating a new email newsletter and campaign. So at any time in MailChimp, when you go to create something new, you can go to this top left corner and click on this Create dropdown. And this is a great place to see all of the different features that MailChimp offers. You can see we can create emails, so we can design and send automated emails to our contacts. We can actually create ads for Facebook and Instagram here within MailChimp. We can create websites here in MailChimp. We can create a landing page, so that's a great place for us to send people through our social networks where they can then sign up for our newsletter. We can create postcards, so those are actual physical postcards that would arrive in the mail to our email list. We can create social posts, and we can create sign-up forms, so that's something that we can embed in our website for people to sign up for our newsletter. So I'm going to touch briefly upon all of these features, but we're going to talk more heavily about creating email newsletters. Before we actually create an email, though, I think it's nice to have somebody to send the email to. So we're actually going to create an audience first. And you don't create an audience from this Create dropdown, ironically. To create an audience, we go over here to the Audience tab. So I'm just going to click on Audience. You'll notice that right now we have one contact. That's going to be us. When you first sign up for a MailChimp account, by default, you are included in your first audience. So I could go over here and I could view the contacts in my audience. So you can see I'm listed down there as the one audience member. Now from here, you'll notice that we have a number of different options up here at the top. So we can look at some different statistics related to our audience, but to add new contacts to our audience, we're just going to click on this Add Contacts dropdown. And you'll notice that we have two options. We could add a subscriber manually, or we could import them. So if you had a list of contacts that you've already acquired, you could click on this Import button, and then you could import those contacts into MailChimp. But for now, I'm just going to click on Add a Subscriber, and we'll add one manually. So you can see when we add a subscriber, we have to enter some information about them. Obviously, we need an email address. So I'm just going to create a contact for another one of my email addresses. And you'll notice that the first name, last name, this information is not required, but let's go ahead and let's just enter some information here. We're going to use that later on. And we'll scroll down. You'll notice that we could enter additional information. You can actually have MailChimp send out emails on the birthdays of your contacts. So if you wanted to do something like that, it would be important to enter the birth date for all of your contacts. If you at some point need to group your contacts, you can group them by tags. So I could add a tag in here. Now, because we are only using one audience here at the beginning, it may actually be really useful for you to separate that audience by using tags. If you were to upgrade to a premium account of MailChimp and you could create separate audiences, you may not use the tags feature as heavily. You need to verify that the person gave you permission to email them. That's just following the law. And MailChimp will check to see if this is a duplicate contact, and if it is, it will just update the profile of the contact already existing. It won't create a new one for you. So when we're ready, we can click on Subscribe. Okay, so now you'll notice that it says my audience has 2 contacts and 2 of them are subscribers. So now I could go back to the audience dashboard. You'll notice that I have some information saying that my audience has grown because we added a new contact member. Scroll down, you have some more information here as well. Notice that we have a few links here to add a pop-up form, a landing page, or to connect our website. So now that we have our audience, we could create a pop-up form, and this form would automatically be linked to this audience. So this would be a way for us to get new subscribes. So we could create this pop-up form, and then we could embed it in our website, and when somebody signs up, they would automatically be added to this audience. All right, let's go ahead and scroll back up here. When you're in the Audience tab, at any point you need to make any changes, you can go over here to the right. You could click on the Manage Audience dropdown. You'll notice that you have some more options here. You could add a subscriber, you could import contacts, you can manage your sign-up forms, manage all of your contacts, you can view your contact settings, and if you had multiple audiences, you could view them from here as well. Okay, so now we have an audience and we have 2 contacts. So let's go ahead and let's create an email to send to this audience. So to do that, we're going to go up here to the top left, and we're going to click on the Create dropdown. From the Create dropdown, we're going to click on Email. You'll notice that a pop-up appears on our screen, and at the top of this pop-up, we have 3 different options for the type of email that we'd like to create. We can create a regular email, which is what we're going to do, but we could also create an automated email. I'm just going to click on this for a second to show you the options that we have in here. So when we create automated emails, we're creating emails that are automatically sent out after an action has occurred. So if we get a new subscriber, we could go ahead and automatically have an email sent to them welcoming them to our newsletter list. I mentioned earlier that we could send out emails on the birthdays of our contacts. So this is where we could create that email by clicking on the Say Happy Birthday option. And if you are running a blog, you could automatically have emails sent out when you've added a new post to your blog. So those are some options that you have for automated emails, but you'll notice that there are a bunch of different tabs up here, and you can actually go through these. So you'll notice that there's some more options in here. So we could thank our subscribers with a pop-up when they join our newsletter list instead of an email. There's some e-commerce options. So this is nice if people are purchasing our products. Maybe they've put some items in a cart, but they haven't purchased them yet. We could then send an email reminding them that they have items in the cart. There are a lot of different options, and I don't have the time in this general tutorial to go over all of them, but I highly recommend that you go through all of these different options on your own time to see what is possible with MailChimp. These automated email campaigns are really cool. And then the last option is just to create a plain text campaign. I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. That's going to be kind of more boring, and I think if you needed to use that feature, you'd know. So we're going to create a regular email. Now, when we first start creating an email, we need to give our campaign a name. So this email is going to be part of a marketing campaign. And we'll just call this Anson Alex 2020. we're basically just going to create an email that lets people know the new content that we've been publishing here in the new year. So once we create a name for our campaign, we'll just click on Begin. Okay, so now we are at the campaign creation screen, and you'll notice that we need to fill out a bunch of different information here. So first of all, who are we sending this campaign to? Let's go ahead and click on the Add Recipients button. You'll notice that when we do that, we have the option to choose an audience. We already have one audience in our account with 2 contacts because it's the contact that was created by default and then the one that we added earlier. So I'll just select that audience. If we wanted to send this email to only a portion of that audience, we could select a tag from the dropdown if we, had added some tags to our contacts. Notice that there are also some pre-built segments, so you could only send this email to new subscribers. To active subscribers, those are subscribers that are actually opening your emails. To inactive subscribers, those are subscribers that aren't opening your emails. So, if you've sent 3 emails to somebody and they've never opened one, maybe it's time to send an email saying, hey, do you still want to be part of my campaign? And if they don't, then you could remove their email address and free up some space to add a new one. So again, you could scroll down this list and see all of the different options that you have here. But for now, we're just going to send a general email to the entire audience. If we wanted to, we could personalize the to field. So this is how we could pull the contact name out of the contacts. We could say like, Happy New Year, Anson, in the subject of the email automatically. But for now, we'll just do a general one and we'll click on Save. So we've now selected the audience that we'd like to send this email to. By default, the email is going to come from the email address associated with our MailChimp account. If you wanted to change that, you could click on this Edit From button over here to the right. Now we need to add a subject to our email, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and click Save. And now comes the fun part. We can actually design the content of our email. So let's go ahead and click on Design Email. When you're designing an email here in MailChimp, you have the option to use a pre-made template or to create an email completely from scratch. You can also modify some of the pre-made templates and save that for future use. So by default, we're looking at some of the featured templates. So you can kind of take a look through this list as well in your own time. And if there's a particular one that you think is a best fit for your situation, definitely go ahead and choose that one. Let's scroll down and just take a quick look, see if there's any that I'd like to use. I know that I have one image that I'd like to add, but I don't have any others. So maybe we will let's look at themes real quick. So here's some themes that we can see, and they've already got some images, and we can get an idea of what the newsletter would actually look like. So again, there's a lot of different options in here. Definitely something that you could take a look at on your own time. This one doesn't look like a bad one. And notice that some of these themes, when I scroll over them, it says that I need to upgrade to use. So the free version of MailChimp only gives access to certain themes and certain templates. So do keep that in mind. But let's go back here to the layouts, and let's just use, say, this simple one right here. So we'll click on this template to use it. And now it pulls up on our screen, and we are in the newsletter editing screen here in MailChimp. We'll just skip this. You'll notice that we have all of these different objects over here on the right side of our screen, and we can drag these into our newsletter as we'd like. So we already have some objects in here because we created this from a template. So we have a place for our logo, we have a place for a title up here at the top, a place for a photo, and then we can add some actual text content. So I do have a logo that I'd like to upload, but I think I'm going to put it here, and I don't need this one at the top. So because I don't need this element, I'm just going to click on the trash can to delete it. Just confirms that I'm going to delete a content block. That's fine. You'll notice that it automatically moves everything up, and that block is now deleted. So the title here, I do want to change what this says. So I'm just going to click on the pencil icon, and then we can edit all of the text over here on the right. And you'll notice that you have a number of formatting tools as well. Some tabs up here at the top so you can change the style if you'd like as well. This has to do with the size and the color and the font. And then there are some other settings as well. So I could change this element to be a 2-column element instead of a 1-column element. But for now, we're just going to add a little bit of content here. 2020 content updates. Great. So now I want to add my image here into this template. So I'm going to go over here to the photo section, and I'm just going to click in the element. You'll notice that I now have some information regarding this element over here on the right, and I have this placeholder image that's in there, and I want to replace this image. So I'm just going to click on Replace. If I had any files already uploaded to MailChimp, I'd see them in here and I'd be able to use them, but I don't, so I need to upload my file. So I'm going to go over here to the right side of the screen and click on the Upload button. Here's the file that I'd like to use on my desktop. I'll just hit Enter on that one, and it's now uploading the image. Okay, we'll close this. So here's the image that I'd like to use. So I'm just going to click on it, and then I'm going to go over here to the right, and I'm going to click on Insert. So you'll notice that my image has now been inserted into my newsletter. So I could go over here to the Style section, and you'll notice that we have some options for how we'd like to style this. That doesn't really do too much for us. Let's take a look at the settings. So we could change our alignment if we wanted to. Now, I always recommend editing your images before uploading them to a content system like MailChimp, but if you find that you need to edit your image after the fact, there is actually an image editor built into MailChimp. So you could click on this Edit button if you needed to, and you could kind of crop this image and change the size and everything. Notice that MailChimp also has some built-in warnings, and this one tells us that this image is so big that it might get clipped in some of the emails. So let's click on the Let's Fix It button. So you'll notice this brings up the editor that I was just talking about. And we could go ahead and we could change the cropping for this image if we wanted to. But I'm not going to do that for now. I'm actually just going to close this out, and I'm not going to worry about it. But that is how we could edit our images. That is the built-in MailChimp editor. So that's pretty useful. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to get to the content. So down here, we have another block, and I could go ahead and I could click in this block. Notice that it gets pulled up over here to the right. And now I could edit the information in this block. So I'm just going to add some content. It's not going to be too much, but just a little bit. And then as you can see, I'm going to use some of the formatting tools. I'm going to use some numbered lists here over on the right side in the MailChimp editor. Okay, so I've added some content here, and you'll notice that my newsletter is starting to look kind of like my own now. It no longer looks like the template. I've mentioned some new content that I've published in the new year. If I wanted to link to this content, I could just highlight the content that I'd like to link over here on the right side. And then I can click on the link icon, and I could enter the web address that I'd like to link. For now, I'll just link my website. I'm not going to link the specific page for time's sake. And we have some advanced options. This is where you can make sure it opens in a new window. You could add a title if you wanted, but I'm just going to insert it as is. So you notice that it changes to a link over here on the left side in my preview section. And the button right now says Start Shopping, but I think I'd rather have this say, how about Start Learning? It's a little more appropriate for my business. And it's going to link to, again, my website. I could link it to a specific page if I wanted to, but I'll just link it to the home page. And I'll click Save and Close for now. So we've got some other elements on this page that I don't need. So I'm just going to hit the trash can to remove them. And so here's the start of our newsletter. Now you'll notice that we do have all these other elements over here as well. So if you wanted to use any of these, you could. You can just click and you can drag them over. So I could put a divider in right here that kind of divides my content a little bit, and then I could save and close that. We could add different buttons. We could add some social follow buttons, so you could link to your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, that sort of thing. If you wanted to add additional images, you can just drag over the image element. So when we click on Design, we have the options to modify some other parts of our newsletter. So we could go to the footer, for example, and we could change how things look in the footer. So we could change the padding. So if we scroll down on the left here, you'll notice we're talking about this area right here. So if I change these elements, you'll notice that it changes over here on the left as well. So you can kind of play around with some of these. These are a little less important and a little more technical, but I do think it's important for you to realize that they are in here. You'll notice how customized these MailChimp newsletters can be. You can really customize almost everything about it. You can also give your subscribers the option to add a comment. So that's a good way to get some feedback based on your newsletters. But we're not going to do that for now. If at any time we want to preview what we've got, we obviously have this preview over here on the left, but we also have this drop down up here at the top, so we could preview and test this email. So we could just enter preview mode, which just changes our tab a little bit, and it shows us what the actual email would look like. Looks pretty similar to what we saw in our preview. So I'm just going to close this out for now. I also want to mention that we could save this as a template. So this is a great way where we can go in, we can take some of the MailChimp templates, and then we can customize them to be our own, and then we can click Save as a Template, and we'll just call this, general updates. So at any time in the future, if we wanted to send out another email regarding updated content for our website, we wouldn't have to create this from scratch again. We could just go in and we could use this template that we just saved. Notice it tells me it will appear under Saved Templates whenever I go to create a new campaign. So great. If we go ahead and look at this preview and test dropdown one more time, I do think it's important to note that you can also send a test email. So you could send an email to yourself to see what it would look like in a live email. So that's also important as well. A few other options that you can take a look at. But then when you're ready, we can just go down here to the bottom and click on Save and Close. Okay, so here we are, we're back at the campaign creation screen, and notice that we've got some areas checked off now. We know who we're sending it to, who it's going to be from, what the subject is, and we've actually already finished customizing the content of our newsletter. Notice that MailChimp tells us that there is going to be a badge in the footer of our email. To remove that, we do have to upgrade our account. So if you do see that in your emails and you're wondering why it's there, that is the reason. Okay, so now that we've finished setting up our campaign, you'll notice that we can take a look up here at the top left. We have a few different options. We can say, I just want to finish this later. I want to schedule this for the future. So if we click on Schedule, we have the option to choose a specific date for our email to go out. However, based on our current account, we don't have access to do that. So we would have to upgrade our account in order to schedule emails. So I'm not going to be able to do that for now, so I'll just close that out. So we can just go ahead and click on the Send button. And it just kind of warns us, we're about to press the red button. Are you sure you're ready? Yes, I think my 2 subscribers will be very happy with this email. And there we go. So it's going to be sent out shortly. We've just created our first MailChimp email campaign. We added a new subscriber to our audience, and then we sent out a customized newsletter to that audience. But for now, let's go back in here to MailChimp, and let's talk about some of the other features. So I'm just going to click on the chimp symbol up here on the left to go back to the home page. Okay, so here we are back on the MailChimp homepage. If we scroll down a little bit here, you'll notice that we have the audience section that we looked at earlier. We also have this area that looks different up here. It says Explore MailChimp, and this is just MailChimp showing us some other things that we can do. So we can create our postcards, we can create social posts, or we can try and do retargeting ads. So that deals with advertising on Facebook and Instagram. I do want to mention real quick, we've talked about the Create dropdown. We've talked about, well, we created a campaign. So if we click on this campaign link, just want to make sure we're clear with all of these links up here at the top. If we click on this campaign link, we now see data, and we see the campaign listed that we just created. So it says it was sent. We don't have any opens or clicks yet, but we could also click on View Report to view more detailed information about this campaign. You'll notice that over here on the left, we could filter all of this information in this campaign section. So if we had multiple campaigns, we could look at the different campaigns based on their status. So the ones that have been completed, that are only currently in draft state, that are ongoing. Or we could look by the type of campaign. So we could filter email campaigns or automations, landing pages, depending on what you've created. So when you first start in MailChimp, this probably isn't that important because you don't have that many campaigns listed here. But as you begin to accrue more campaigns in your account, it's nice to be able to sort by the different types of campaign. And also, please note that you can search here as well. So it's important to title your campaigns accordingly so that you can easily find them in the future. Now, we talked about the Automate dropdown. This is where we can create automated emails, ads, or postcards. We went to the audience link and we created our audience. So let's take a look at this brand link. This just kind of allows us to do some more brand marketing here in MailChimp. So we can take a look at the templates. So we could customize a template. We already kind of did that. This is where you could manage a website via MailChimp. So let's click on that real quick here. So notice that by default, a web page is already created for us, and let's see if we can see what it looks like. So you'll notice that here's what our MailChimp web page would currently look like. And I think it's interesting to note, I actually haven't used MailChimp to build a website yet, but you'll notice that we have these elements over here on the right, and they're basically the same elements that we used when we created our newsletter. So MailChimp is essentially using the same features that they have for newsletter creation to create a website. So I'm not going to necessarily recommend that you build a website in MailChimp yet. I think there are some other tools out there that are probably more powerful, but it's definitely something that might be interesting to some of you, something to take a look at and kind of play around with on your own time. So I'm just going to go back to the home page here. We'll go back to the brand drop down. So that's where we could manage a website. We could manage domains through MailChimp if we wanted to. Again, probably not necessary. They've really branched out in recent years and added a whole bunch of new horizontally related marketing features instead of just newsletter campaigns. And then if you want to access all of your images and files that you've uploaded to MailChimp, you can access them by clicking on Content Studio. So when I uploaded that logo earlier, if I wanted to make any changes to that, I could find it in the Content Studio section. And finally, we have the Reports section. Let's go ahead and click on that. This is a really important section of MailChimp because this is where we can see all of the analytical data related to our campaigns and our emails. So you can see that right now we have our one campaign listed, and we could click to view the report on this campaign. You'll notice that there isn't much data right now. All we really have is 2 successful deliveries. Let's see if that's true. So I'll go back to this email tab, and yeah, here it is. Okay, so here's the newsletter. Let's click to open it. 2020 content updates. Say no thanks. We'll let Google display the images. All right, so here's our newsletter, and here's the link that we created. Does the link work properly? Yes, it does. It brings me to my website. Great. So there's our first newsletter. It was successful. And now let's see how fast the data updates in the analytics section, because now we opened it. It doesn't say that we opened it yet, but it will eventually record that we've opened this email. You can notice you can see your 24-hour performance. So obviously, the more emails that you send out and the more subscribers you have, the more data that you will see in here. If you look at the top, there's this drop-down that says activity. So we can actually view the data based on certain emails. So we can only view data based on opened emails, based on emails that weren't open, based on emails that had a link inside of them that people clicked. So if you had a lot of information here and you needed to drill down, you can use these areas up here at the top to do so. If at any time you want to upgrade your MailChimp account, you can do so by clicking on the Upgrade button. And if we go over here to the top right where my username is listed, you'll notice that there's a drop down. And this is where we can modify some settings for our profile or our account settings. So I can click on Account. You'll notice that we have a whole bunch of information in here. So we have some different settings. So we can change our security settings, contact information. We can change our billing settings if we are subscribed to a monthly plan with MailChimp. You can also see how many of your contacts that you're currently using. So we have the availability to use 2,000 contacts, and we're currently using 2 of them. So we've got a ways to go. And based on our plan, we're able to send 10,000 emails a month. So right now we've sent 2 out of our 10,000. So this is a good place to take a look to see how much you're using MailChimp and if you may need to upgrade to a paid version. If you've used almost all of your contacts and you're getting close on all of your email sends, then it might be time to upgrade. So I'm just going to go back to the home page here, and I just want to reiterate that whenever you need to create something new in MailChimp, you can always start with this Create dropdown. Really easy to access to create any emails or landing pages, sign-up forms for your website. Great place to start managing your campaigns right up here at the top. You can create new campaigns from there as well, or you can just click on email. It's essentially the same thing. If you need to create an automated campaign, you can do so here from the Automate dropdown. And if you want to manage your subscribers and your audience, you can do so by clicking on the audience link. So this should give you a foundation to get up and running with MailChimp, create your first audience, customize your first newsletter, and get it sent out. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up here on YouTube. And if you want to see more technology tips and tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's all I have for you for now. This is Anson from AnsonAlex.com.